Here we have what we thought was going to happen. A tornado warning has now been elevated from that severe thunderstorm warning. Still the same timeline until 6:30. Here we have the winds that are going through, and here is that area from Millville to Russellville, down to about East 155th Street and also 156th Street. This is now the couplet that we talk about, inbound, outgoing, where you see the green right next to the red. That is circulation, and that's about where Nick was talking about not too long ago, as we were still talking about the possibility of this possibly going on the ground. Yeah, Nick, go ahead. I hear that you're talking to your driver and also your photographer. What do you see?
Sorry, we're navigating. Brian, this is that part of the storm that came right overhead that we've been tracking. Brian, I'm waiting for confirmation on the National Weather Service, but I think this is a confirmed tornado. I have evidence on the radar that we're using 9 air, likely from a tornado that is either in progress or was in progress. And I think that's what prompted the warning, but a very evident tornado debris signature on radar. I'm on Road K. This is going to east of Knoxville, way 13, approximately 6 miles east-southeast of Knoxville, and I'm on County Road K, and it's moving slowly to the east, so it's
Seems like we're leaving a little signal out there since he is out in the rural portion, and sometimes the cell coverage is not the best. But what he was referring to is what we call a debris signature that's showing up on the radar. As he mentioned, he's not too far away from Knoxville itself, just to give you one of the bigger cities that are out there. This is over the eastern and northeastern corner of Ray County. This is now, at least looking at the radar, the potential of a tornado that is on the ground in the northeastern corner of Ray County, and it is still showing some signs of holding together, which is why the Weather Service has decided, oh, look at that. The rotation's now gone up the scale. Remember when I started at the beginning of the newscast, it was only in the green, and now we're starting to see, at least it's going toward the middle portion of that scale. So this is more than just weak rotation that we're noticing here. This is now the tornado warning, and thank you for keeping it there. Meteorologist Pete Grigsby is in the Weather Center. We sent Katie Horner home because of the simple reason she's been here since 4 in the morning. That way we have fresh eyes looking at this, and I know Pete is running the radar. There you see the rotation itself near Russellville and also near Millville. And also let me know when we have Nick once again, just in case, talking to the control room, since he's got eyes, at least trying to get out in the field. But this is moving, as he mentioned, very slowly. So within the severe thunderstorm warning, which is the yellow, we do have the severe thunderstorm that is producing the tornado warning, which is embedded within that. So if you are in Russellville, please be in your safe area. It is heading toward you at about 10 miles an hour, so hopefully that'll give you enough time to get into your safe area. And also heading towards, also in the Missouri side, as it's going into the northeastern corner of Ray County. We do have established contact with Nick once again on this first alert day, first alert weather alert day. Go ahead, Nick.
Brian, I think we are right up against the backside of the storm that is producing the tornado. I still see evidence here on radar of a tornado debris signature. So that's the radar picking up on bits of debris. We can't tell what kind of debris, but we know that it's not raindrops or hailstones. We can confirm that it is some type of debris because raindrops, hailstones, they're all of the same shape. You know, they group up. Okay, I do have some some leaves that are starting to drop out of the sky here. Again, I'm on County Road K. You're going to see my location on First Alert Live radar there. But what happens is you get this correlation coefficient, or this drop in that, meaning that there's a lot of things in the air of different sizes. And when that's co-located on an area of strong rotation, we can then say this is a tornado in progress. And you can see that there with First Alert Live radar. There's a very clear area of correlation.
Yeah, I still see that. And again, we're going to go in and out of Nick's picture there. We've now shown you, at least at the wall there, that's what we call the storm winds, where the red is right next to the green. That is the couplet that was near, was it Millville? Millville, that we're looking at. And as I step back in front of it, Russellville, as I said, I hope you're in your safe area right now. There is Millville, so it looks like at least the rotation has passed you by. And it is a small rotation, but it has at least shown some signs of organization that's ongoing. And we're looking at one of the other lenses, what we were talking about, the CC as we abbreviate, the correlation coefficient, and that's still showing up, showing you that there's a debris signature, which means that this thing has been moving through the countryside and chewing up something. It's not just raindrops and hailstones that the radar is seeing, it's possibly seeing building material that's being lofted into the air, another indication that at one time it was on the ground. This is now a confirmed tornado warning. So it's not just radar indicated anymore. There are eyeballs out in the field, like Nick, who's out in Storm Tracker 9 to let us know until 6:30, Ray County is under that tornado warning because of the couplet we see as it's continuing to go toward Russellville. And it looks like at least the better rotation is just to the north of the city, but please stay in your safe area. I do want to give out the all clear, maybe out toward Millville, farther to the west out in Ray County, that it appears at least the most dangerous part of the storm has passed you by. But we're still going to be underneath at least some rain there. So if you can stay inside and maybe in your safe area, go for it. But right now it looks like the better chances of the organized portion of the storm that could produce the tornado is now to the east of you, but still moving through the eastern and northeastern corner of Ray County. And remember, we're still under a severe thunderstorm watch until 11 o'clock. But just so you get your bearings, there of course would be Clay County. Here is Ray. This is the phantom line we've been talking about, which is a boundary going through Richmond. You're probably going to notice some cooler air behind it. But where these two are intersecting, I want to give that first alert also out toward Carroll County. No tornado warning, no severe thunderstorm warning yet. But if this holds together, as it's moving farther to the east pretty slowly, is it still at 10 to 15 miles an hour? I believe so. Go ahead,
Yes.
Pete.
15 miles an hour to the east-southeast direction.
Okay, so it's going east-southeast at 15 miles an hour. That may clip the southern portion of Carroll County if it holds together, but this warning stays in effect for another 16 minutes or so. Still part of a larger area that goes up toward Chillicothe. Heavy rain, torrential rainfall, flooding is a concern there. 2 to 4 inches of rain have been reported in some areas, but now Hardin getting some of that heavy rain. But it is a small cluster right in here, which is where you see the rotation, which is also where you see the red, which is that tornado warning, staying in effect until about another 16 minutes or so. Because it's moving so slowly at 10 miles an hour, I hope that gives you ample time to get to your safe area. And if we do a storm track, I guarantee you probably it's going to be hitting more rural areas as opposed to individual cities itself. But the rotation itself is still showing now near Russellville. That's why I said about, 3 to 5 minutes ago, please be in your safe area just to be on the safe side. We're going to attempt to do a storm track. And notice again that we've drawn it here, but you don't see anything really populating in, mainly because it is in a rural area, unincorporated in between cities itself, but Stett is there. Rockingham is farther to the south and west. But Russellville is where we see the better rotation that is still showing up on our scale. And I still see the couplet on the winds. I'm just looking at 2 or 3 different monitors that you can't see at home, but there are about 2 or 3 different ones I can look at. And that couplet is still very close to Russellville itself, which lines up very well with the rotation that you see. In the last frame, it does not look as strong, but the debris signature is there. Now, there is a lag between when the debris signature comes to an update and some of the other tools that we have here in the First Alert Weather Center. But if it's going to show up like that, it is not just unlikely. That is starting to move farther up the scale that this is a confirmed tornado that at one time had dropped down and caused at least some sort of disruption, at least. Hopefully people have heeded the warning and gone to their safe area. So for another 14 minutes or so, the extreme northeastern corner of Ray County is under this tornado warning. As you know, the rules are go into the interior, lowest level possible, putting in as many walls between you and the outside, protecting the head from the debris. And that's why we're looking at that debris signature that was still out there. The storm winds, any way we can do just a query to see exactly how strong they are inbound and outbound, just to get an idea as to how strong this storm is. The green is going to be inbound, driving its way toward winds that are heading toward Pleasant Hills radar. The outbound is the red. And when you add the two figures together, that gives you an indication as to how strong the winds are. Okay, 34 and 39. So just under 70 miles an hour. They're about 70 miles an hour is a circulation that we're seeing right about there near Russellville. And there you go, 34, which is heading in the positive direction. You're going to see a minus sign, but we still add the two values together, 39 plus 34. So there you see that this is causing some issues, causing some problems, certainly above the 58 mile an hour criteria for a severe thunderstorm. And when you have some of this that is definitely making contact with the ground, that's the definition of a tornado, which is now why this tornado warning stays in effect for another 13 minutes. Although right now it looks like it is waning a little bit as far as the rotation is concerned, but the couplet is still showing up. Not sure if we're getting power outages from this, but right now this is the part of the cell farther to the south, though, it does not look like it is quite down where we're looking over the extreme southern portion of this warning. But I do want to at least give you that first alert that as we're talking about near Russellville, that's where you definitely need to be taking your precautions. Nick, I think we've reestablished contact. Go ahead, sir. Nick, I think we've reestablished. Go ahead, sir.
All right, Brian. Behind this tornado.
There he is.
Rain. Any debris yet?
Holding.
I have not.
Just pause it. Hang on.
I was hearing him, and I could make out some of what he was saying. I was making out some of what he was saying. What he was referring to is it's moving at about 10 miles an hour. I think I can hear you now, Nick. Go ahead. I think I can hear you now, Nick. Go ahead.
As far as cell phone reception goes, so our audio or our video might cut out, but we're just on the backside of the part of the storm that's producing the tornado. It's hard to tell if it is still producing it or if it has lifted based off of radar. I can't see any indication in the clouds based off of the heavy rain that's falling, and I haven't seen any damage yet. And I would think that we would see some damage here on this road because we're just directly behind it, unless it's, you know, a few hundred yards north to south of Highway K, which that's a real possibility. But Brian, we're just going to kind of continue east here. I'll give you a shout if we encounter anything that would say that this is still.
All right, Nick, thank you for that. And I know, again, you're going to be in sketchy cell coverage, so you're going to be in and out. And if you can still at least talk to the booth, they can certainly relay any information to me or Pete about what is going on. I would tend to think that it is still showing up, maybe not quite as organized as it was, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to lift it. Weather Service is still looking at it very carefully as well, and I know that they have us on one of the monitors that's in their war room, if you will. Russellville is still in the throes of it. I was going to mention that Rockingham is out of it unless it starts to slide a little farther to the east and southeast, but we've been drawing it to the east and southeast, not necessarily making a huge curve like that. But it is over the northeastern corner of Ray County, which is now underneath this tornado warning, again, now for another 11 minutes or so. This seems to be the biggest cell that we're talking about. We've widened it out because we still know that sometimes you can be a little nervous when you hear thunder and lightning, see torrential rainfall hard, and you're getting some of that rain, but not necessarily the rotation that we're still showing within this tornado warning. And there are other cells that are rotating, but not quite as organized as what we saw there. And just because there's rotation doesn't necessarily mean that it's a tornado or one's going to drop down. But it does show that it's a little more organized than some of the one-in-the-mill thunderstorms that we have going on. I am curious about this other one that we see farther down to the south, and that seems to be what sometimes happens is you get individual cells in a line. So now between the one that we've been talking about in Hardin, which is down to the south of there seems to be at least some bit of rotation or some bit of a couplet that could be developing there too. Don't know if you noticed this, but did you see how the severe thunderstorm warning has been shaved off for communities to the west? This is just to talk about the prolonged, or the way that the cell is continuing to organize itself and also continue to move. But now it appears that there's a secondary rotation that's down to the south of us of that particular one that's on the severe thunderstorm that's produced the tornado warning until 6:30. So for another 9 minutes or so, this one stays on the books. I'm just going to toss to Pete. Just one of the things we do here in the Weather Center, we do have microphones that are open. Pete, are you seeing anything on chat regarding that secondary batch of rotation that's down to the south?
As of that, the second one to the south, no, I'm not. But a couple of observations,
Sure.
And looking at the one that actually has the tornado warning. First of all, and I think you've already pointed that out, as I navigated this, I was looking. Now the good news is the rotation is not as strengthened as it was earlier, and that's good. But then the one to the south, it's not difficult to see what it's picking up on. Now the interesting thing, though, Brian, is when I go into the velocity mode here. I mean, there's some there. Mm-hmm. It's not, as you can see, it's not real tight in one specific area, but it's definitely worth watching as of right now. You also mentioned that a lot of these storms, they've been showing some rotation as they move to the east. The one with the tornado warning, though, has been the most significant one we've seen so far this afternoon. But still, like you said, they're going to let this go until at least 6:30, but we've not seen anything chat-wise that's going to extend it or anything else when it comes to that. In fact, let me look at it real quick here again.
Sure.
Let's see. Okay, they're verifying what we just said. They're saying the new signatures that are showing up south now, and it's something that they're going to have to look at the National Weather Service. So no doubt we're all in agreement that that's something that's got everybody's eye now. They're looking at the radar and do an analysis. Look how well defined that is there.
Yeah.
When you just look at the storm wind and compare the two areas. So no doubt, so we've got two to keep an eye out now, but they're in the same area, same real estate area when it comes to that part of Missouri.
One thing I'm not seeing, though, is the signature of the debris down on the southern one, but still it's worth noting that maybe it hasn't made its presence felt on the bottom side of the cloud come a little closer to the ground, but there certainly is a little bit of rotation there. Nick, we're back with you. Let's try to use that time that you are there to try to hear what you have to say from the field. Nick, go ahead.
Okay, visually, Brian, this storm looks like it has weakened some, or is at least not in the process of currently producing a tornado, and that matches up with the velocity and the debris products that we have on radar. So that's good. I have had at times leaves that have been falling out of the sky, so well above my head, so that could have been an indication that maybe a weak tornado moved through here. I've not seen any structural damage on any of the homes or farmsteads that I've had that I've come through here, which right now I'm on Highway K and I'm coming into Stet. So I haven't seen any debris, so that's good. But there was definitely a tornado that came really close to this area, but it looks like it has lifted and it's now being enveloped in a much larger area of rain on the storm that is becoming more dominant, which appears to be moving over Norburn. To the south of us. So that may be the next storm that we really have to focus in on. I'm not going to be able to see that thunderstorm's base, which is where the updraft and the rotation would be if we were concerned about a tornado. I'm just not in that position here to get into that. But Brian, as it stands right now here in Stet or here in Wright County, is diminishing.
And that's a good thing, and one of the things that you mentioned is also somewhat optimistic is the fact that you haven't seen that much in the way of building material or other debris on the roads on your way since you are behind the system itself. So that's a good sign as well. In addition to that southern cell that we were just talking about where he mentioned Norburn, this is now a new severe thunderstorm warning that is now out for Carroll County, northeastern portions of Lafayette County. That's the more dominant cell that has started to kind of take a lot of the energy, robbing some of the strength from the other one that was under this tornado warning in Ray County. And that will be allowed to expire in the next 5 minutes or so, which is good news. But using our app here, I'm just reading some of the text from the National Weather Service. This is now heading toward Norburn, so you should be in your area. The winds may pick up to about 60 miles an hour. You may get a little bit of hail, but right now we're not seeing necessarily the rotation that we did with the other one. It's broad, but it's not necessarily as tight as we saw with the other one. So as we're looking here, that's almost shriveled up to the east and northeast, so I'm sure they're going to let this one expire and not extend it farther to the east. But now, as everybody seems to be mentioning, the meteorologists here in the First Alert Weather Center, meteorologists out at the National Weather Service, that this is now going to be the next storm that is now going to be a severe thunderstorm warning, and that one is out, as we said, toward western portions of, that would be northern portions of Lafayette County, I should say, southeastern corner of Ray County, and also into Carroll County. So where the three come together, that is where this now cell is coming through. 60-mile-an-hour winds, quarter-size hail, torrential rainfall as well, which is going to make it difficult for a spotter to see rotation necessarily, which is why, once again, we really do have to rely on the radar being able to x-ray, if you will, to be able to look underneath and look through the cloud to see exactly what's going on. But I would say with fairly good confidence that this is not as organized as it was. That was the tornado warning that was issued during our 6 o'clock newscast. And now a new severe thunderstorm warning stays in effect, as you see here, for Carroll County until 6:45, as it is continuing to move farther to the east and hold together a little bit more. Still, part of what we do is we do a combination of the radar itself and also folks out in the field. And that's why we have to rely on one or the other to verify each and every one. But Nick is in a good position to at least try to see what that first cell has done. He's maybe going to try to get a little farther to the south if he can, at a safe distance. He will definitely be behind it more so than in front of it. But every once in a while, we look for other information to come in here from what we call chat, and that is a combination of National Weather Service people, emergency managers who are out in these individual counties, and those of us in the media. And the three of us try to get together to compare information and let you know what's happening. But it looks like in the next 2 or 3 minutes, that Ray County tornado warning will be allowed to expire. That's about what I'm seeing. Do you hear anything different, Pete, or the folks in the Weather Center? That's about what they're saying?
No, I think so far there's no more chat about extending that. It looks like on our end it has weakened here on the radar. So I'm like you. I really think they're going to let this thing expire at 6:30, and we'll just keep a close eye on the next one that's south of there, hitting Norman, Missouri, even now.
Okay, then let's look at an analysis. A couple of things. You know, the larger the hail gets, the stronger the updraft can be. So if we wipe this, just curious to see if there's any hail signature that's showing up. That's one of the other lenses we can look at. And the hail detector does not look like, and it takes a little time for it to actually catch up. Nothing that's really showing up possibly yet. So that's a good sign. Back to the winds, though. Since a severe thunderstorm warning is either 58-mile-an-hour winds or stronger, hail 1 inch in diameter or larger, or a combination of both. And as you see here, there is a broad rotation where you have the red and the green, but they're not really compact or next to each other. Still a storm we're going to watch, and that's part of the reason why they pulled the trigger on this severe thunderstorm warning until 6:45 for Carroll County, as it is moving toward Norburn. So I would still say, because this is a severe thunderstorm watch until 11 o'clock, go to your safe area to be on the safe side. The rotation, as you see here, is kind of sprawled out. It's not really confined to one area or confined to one portion of the cell itself. But it does look like at least this one's going to be heading toward Norburn. Torrential rainfall right now, probably vivid lightning, tons of thunder, lots of rainfall that will happen. But as far as a signature that we're seeing, I'm not looking at that quite yet. As right now, it is a bona fide legitimate severe thunderstorm, but not necessarily one that's organizing with that debris signature that we saw earlier to the north, or say any other indication that there is a tornado that has been on the ground. But we are going to keep an eye out, especially when you start to see a notch every once in a while, a little indentation, a little inflow into the storm, which could feed it. That's one thing we're going to continue to watch and to monitor, not only here, but also at the National Weather Service. And there are spotters that are out here in Carroll County to see if, in fact, that is the case, that's what is going to happen. But right now, it is just heavy rain heading toward Norburn, and first alert also going out toward Carrollton, since this is going to stay in effect until 6:45. Pete, just out of curiosity, the movement on this, is it also slowing down?
We're keeping it at 15 miles an
15.
hour right now, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's going to cause flooding, if anything else. Even if we don't get the hail or the wind, we are going to get some torrential rainfall, and already there is our flash flood watches that are out, mainly east of Kansas City. And as you see, as we put this in animation mode, there was a little bit of purple, which is usually indicating of some sort of hail possible, but that has seemed to be absorbed quite a bit. And now it's just heavy rain that's heading toward Norburn that's going through. Winds could still be pretty strong. And notice how at 6:30, the tornado warning has been allowed to expire. It is no longer there, and that's good news. So we can definitely eliminate that at the bottom of the screen, and now just worry about the severe thunderstorm warning staying in effect until 6:45 as it's heading to the east at 15 miles an hour. Let's try, because it may be a little more populated here, let's try and see if we can do a storm track at moving to the east at about 15. There may be some cities that populate here, there may not be, just depending on exactly what is going to show up on our database of cities. But here we are trying to draw it on 15 miles an hour. And it's supposed to stay in effect until 6:45. Waverly, that'll be after the severe thunderstorm warning is allowed to expire at 6:45, but that is the nearest town that we could find. So this is fairly much unincorporated farmland. Still, a lot of folks are out there, which is why we're on the air. But Waverly at 7 o'clock, it could be impacting you. That is now the severe thunderstorm warning staying in effect for another 14 minutes or so. I still think that Nick is not to be found, unfortunately, because of the signal. We don't have the signal there, just letting you know that. So let us go a little wider just for one particular cell before we go on to update other areas. This is now looking farther to the east and northeast, where the line is now extending from Chillicothe down toward Carrollton, down toward Higginsville. Not severe. The severe thunderstorm warning going out toward Carroll County until 6:45. And notice how there's still the heavy rain, Bethany going toward Gallatin, but starting to weaken a little bit toward Trenton. And notice how there really hasn't been that much at all on the 435 loop or the Kansas City side at all, the metro itself. And I really don't think that's going to be changing much in the next short term. We are going to continue to watch and monitor this line as it's moving through. As we look at the big picture once again, it is going to be clear on the Kansas side, not much in northwest Missouri, not much within the Kansas City metro, but still, right in there is where we're seeing that severe thunderstorm warning staying in effect until 6:45. And right now, indications are that it is going to be more of a severe thunderstorm, not necessarily organizing to be a tornado warning yet. Not sure if we're getting power outage reports or anything else that's coming in here from that area. Do you have some? No, okay, just curious. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just to, we're just past 6:30, and especially for the benefit of those viewers who may be joining us right now, it was Nick Bender in Storm Tracker 9, and you saw it live here on KMBC 9 News at 6, was one of the first people to spot rotation. This was 3 miles west of Russellville, Missouri. That's up in Ray County. Storm chasers also confirmed a tornado. And so, again, you saw it live on our air. We have received, and I'm looking at the same sort of information that Pete and Brian are looking at in the Weather Center. There have been no reports of any sort of damage or injuries. Obviously, this is a largely rural area of North Missouri, and we've been tracking this storm as it continues to move to the east now for the better part of a half an hour. And again, Brian and Pete, the tornado warning for Ray County has been allowed to expire.
Correct.
The severe thunderstorm warning for Ray County has been allowed to expire, but now we're keeping our eye on what's happening in Carroll County and Lafayette County to the east and a little bit to the south.
Correct. And if it does decide to ramp up and have another tornado warning issued for it, we'll certainly come back on the air. But right now, this is now a severe thunderstorm warning, as mentioned, Norburn and you're in a safe area, Waverly heading in about 7 o'clock or so, damaging winds up to 60 miles an hour, hail the size of an inch or larger. That seems to be the culprit from the cell itself, but right now does not have that signature that we're looking for a tornado. But if that changes, certainly we'll let you know. For now, that's the very latest from the First Alert Weather Center.